Mohammed, 21, and Raza Mohammed Abu Salah, 19 years old. Three wonderful students gunned down the other night in their apartment in Chapel Hill for apparently no reason, supposedly maybe a parking dispute. It doesn't make any sense. Let's discuss what's going on with our senior legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin and our global affairs analyst Bobby Ghosh, who's written extensively on Islam and Muslims in America. Bobby, you take a look at this, you look at what's going on. Give us your thoughts on what has happened here.
Well, it's a terrible, terrible tragedy. What you can see here is sort of three young people full of promise, full of hope, and not just from those pictures, but also from descriptions from their family and friends. Very positive-minded, very determined to contribute to their community. Couldn't be more American, frankly, than these three young people being gunned down. We're being told that the precipitating cause had something to do with a parking dispute. As a journalist, I'm trained to believe that nothing is impossible, but as a human being, that does stretch credulity a little bit. It seems to me impossible that that could be the only reason why these three young people are no longer with us.
And Jeffrey, the argument that you hear from family members and others, well, maybe this guy, the alleged shooter, was upset about the parking or whatever was going on. And he had a history of confrontations over parking, but he had no criminal record, had not shot anyone else before. All of a sudden, he allegedly goes into their apartment after a little parking dispute, takes out his weapon, his gun, and shoots these three young kids in the head.
It's, I mean, to call it bizarre and horrific is, of course, an understatement. You know, I think it's important that we determine whether it's a hate crime just because that we want to learn about what country we live in. But as a legal matter, it may really not matter whether it's a hate crime, because he is certainly going to be eligible for the death penalty in North Carolina simply for killing the three of them, regardless of what his motive is. And North Carolina's hate crimes law really only applies, as I understand it, to elevate misdemeanors to felony, and obviously this is already a felony. And the federal government's hate crimes law, they usually only step in if there's a failure at the state level. So I think it's unlikely to matter as a legal matter, but obviously it is something we're all going to want to know why someone could do something so awful.
What's so disturbing, Bobby, and as I say, you've written a lot about this, is these two young women, they were wearing the headscarf, the traditional headscarves, and we hope it doesn't put a chill out there for other young Muslim women. If they want to walk around wearing a headscarf, then of course that is their absolute right to do so. They shouldn't be afraid to do so, because potentially they could be targeted as Muslims, right?
Well, we've seen some echoes of that pretty much since 9/11, that people who are perceived to be Muslim, and often headgear is the indicator, face more and more hostility. In this case, this man lived in the same building. He was their neighbor. Even if they didn't wear a headscarf, I think he would have been aware that they were Muslim. But you go on social media now, and you're hearing from Muslim Americans saying exactly that you know, are we now more vulnerable because because of our headscarves, because of our beards, because of the way we look? The otherness that is being defined here is something that sends a chill through the millions of Muslim Americans.
It certainly does, and once again, our deepest condolences to the families of these three wonderful young Americans who needlessly were murdered, and there's no excuse, there's no explanation. What can you say? It's just a horrible, horrible thing. We'll take a quick break. Much more right after this.